See, what's going to happen, and a lot of these ladies think, oh, passport bros is, this is just a small percentage. Okay, so those same passport bros, you're right. Many of them are going to come back, but they're going to come back with women from other places and other cultures.
Yes.
And they're not going to run off and live in the mountains. They're going to live right next door to you. So their children and their wife and those children are going to be raised in the culture that predominates that woman's culture. They're not going to go to your black church. They're not going to go to your hair salon. You're not going to be able to interact with them. Their sons are probably not going to date you or your daughters because their mothers are going to say, that's not what we want. Matter of fact, I predict, and some brothers on my page agree with me, that in about 10 to 15 years, with all these women from other races and white women also, they're going to start telling their sons, hey, don't date those black American women. Don't bring them in our house because that culture is toxic. It's the same thing your father was running away from. And it's the same thing he ran to me for. So why would you bring that into our house? That's going to be painful because they're going to be living next door to you. And you're going to be ostracized in your own country. These men are not, some brothers are going to move overseas. Of course, you're going to have a small percentage of black men that travel overseas, but the vast majority of these men are going to pick up women who are Asian descent, Latina descent, and white women, and they're going to move right next door to you with their children and the culture that they bring. And that's going to be even more painful than them running off to some island somewhere and you never have to see them.
Ooh, and that brings me to really, one of the main purposes of this discussion. So you're saying that, as these different cultures come over, women from Latin America, Caribbean, Africa, Europe, Asia, essentially these different cultures, it's gonna help drive that wedge even further because the reputation is gonna get out that like, hey, these American women, these Black American women, a lot of them are spoiled. I don't know how to put it, but a lot of them, they have a toxic mentality. They have a toxic way of looking at life that we don't want son, to marry into. This is what you're saying.
So what? I mean, it's I'm sorry, sister. Go ahead. Please.
No, you can go. And now.
No, I was gonna say it's some older black women right now that tell their sons don't marry these young black girls.
Well,
it's older black women from the black community, and that will tell their sons don't marry and don't bring home these hot thoughts that are running around in these streets right now. I don't want any of that in my house. They will tell you that. Matter of fact, I can't see you, just the way in which you carry yourself and your husband. You don't want if you had a son, I don't know, you don't want your son marrying some thought that you got to deal with, and you don't know if this is your grandchild or not.
Oh, of course not.
And so
are you kidding?
there's a small percentage. Now that used to be the order of the day. That's not the order of the day now. See, now, because of the privity, the ghetto, as what do they say, as the black redneck mentality that's taken over the black community, that's prevalent. That's the dominant culture. Ghetto, fabulous, hood rat, that's seen as synonymous with black culture. Prior to that, that wasn't it. We were classy, we were black. It was, I'm black, I'm proud. We were an empowered group of people. We went, even the way we dressed, you didn't have men walking around with their pants hanging off their butt, wearing oversized clothes and that sort of thing. Back in the 1920s and 30s, we cared about how we dressed, not because we were trying to please other people, but because we liked the way it made us feel. But, there's been a breaking down in the community, and brothers who are now reaching the middle class, and it all goes back to money. They don't have to settle for that anymore. There was a time wherein you had racial loyalty that forced you to settle. You had, don't marry outside, keep it real, get you a sister. You had legal barriers, i.e. segregation and miscegenation laws that prevented you from marrying out. but it's wide open now. And so, you know, presented with the opportunity, and somebody said this, we had to deal with segregation, but now we have to deal with learning to live with freedom. And what I see Black people doing is they're separating themselves, and they're, especially men. But you got to understand, ma'am, you know, for the past 50 years, Black women have told Black men, we don't like you, you're nothing, you're horrible fathers. And they didn't use that language. You know, they put it out on television. They put it on daily shows like Sally Jesse Raphael. They the movies like Color Purple. You've told us in not so many words that we're nothing, we're nobodies. And, you know, you don't need a man. I'm not talking about you particularly, but generally, if you ask around the world, what group of women is known for saying, I'm strong, independent, and don't need a man? It's not the Irish women. It's not the Pakistani women.
No,
it's not the Chinese. It's African American women right here in the United States. So what's happening? These young brothers, they took the hint. They got the message. See, I'm one of the last generation of Black men from Generation X who said, let's keep it real, get you a sister. And I did. I tried. And I realized then, with my money and my opportunities, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that sort of attitude. I'm not your shrink. I'm not going to deal with the neck rolling. I'm not going to deal with the attitude. And there are a lot of other men who have that same belief. So yeah, Passport Bros is going to grow, and those men are going to move those women right back in those houses in those neighborhoods, and they're going to go on with their families. And that in itself is going to be, you know, that is going to be your response. Not you per se, you got a husband, but any woman who doesn't have a husband within the next 5 to 10 years, she's going to have a problem if she's an African American woman.